Greetings and welcome to Hexed Encountered. I'm Joe. It is time for our playthrough of Strike for Berlin. This is from Yaah magazine, issue number 11. Came out in April 2018. So as you can see here, this is what if the fledgling Red Army invaded Germany in 1920. So it's a what if alternate history kind of game designed by Brian Train. It also pairs up or links to Red Horde 1920, which is published by Tiny Battle Publishing, which is, of course, the same company that does Yaah magazine and Flying Pig games. They're all one big family, so to speak. And that one can link to this. That one, of course, is the Soviet or Russian-Polish War, I guess, or Soviet-Polish War, immediately after or during, really, the Russian Civil War. So that this game posits that the Soviets actually won that war, which they did not historically. And the linked game would pick up from there and just kind of play through. So what I'm doing right now is setup. And there's a setup chart here, okay? The cool thing about this game is because it's a hypothetical, you have a slew of optional rules, such as having the Entente Entente forces be available, some French and British forces. Also the Volunteer Legion. You can have Trotsky's train in here. You can have armored trains or not have armored trains. You have various options for the Reichswehr, which of course was the brand new post-World War I German army that had just finished reorganizing and in the time frame of this, which starts in August of 1920. And then, of course, the Freikorps, which was kind of the militia, I guess you could say, in Germany during that time. Then you have basically two Polish armies, the Polish National Army, which is the non-communist one, or the White Army, if you would prefer. And, of course, then there's the PRA, which is the Polish Red Army, and that is obviously the communist side. Then you've got the Spartacists, which can appear as well, and the Konarmia, which is another communist force. And then, of course, the Soviet Red Army, or the Russians. And they have a large force. Now, the way setup works is it tells you how many brigades and divisions you get. And then you have a setup area. There's an optional rule, which I am using for historical setup for the Reichswehr, which I did here. So we've got rail lines here coming in from the west. And so these represent forces of the Reichswehr that were in the western part of Germany. So they're coming towards here because the Red Army is moving into German territory. On the map here, we've got this gray line. This is the pre-war German border. So this is Poland. This is Poland right here as it existed between the two world wars, with the free city of Danzig up here. You've got East Prussia, which of course was separated by the Polish corridor here. East Prussia from the rest of Germany. So the Germans have a unit up here in Königsberg. They also have several units in the cities here, Berlin, Stettin, Frankfurt am Oder, and Dresden, of course, then Breslau. So the red line represents the current border as of 1920. So there are rules for where the Russian Red Army, the Soviet Red Army, can set up in Warsaw and Poland north of the Vistula, but not in East Prussia and not past what was the pre-war border of Germany. And then they drew out 20 divisions. I rolled a die here. You can see the red die is a 4. These are the 4 reduced divisions that they get. They also get some brigades. They're actually up here on the top of the map. I have not placed them yet. So what I wanted to do was kind of do a quick talk about how setup works here. So if we come up here and look at our setup chart, and I'm sorry, it's kind of glary. Okay, so here we go. You've got the Reichswehr at the top. You can see they have no brigades, 10 divisions. They have 2 headquarters, and once we get into gameplay, we'll talk about how headquarters impact that. The setup area, anywhere in towns or cities in Germany, I'll use optional historical deployment, which is what I did. Then you have the Freikorps, which was 4, and you roll a d6. You can see I'm using blue for the white forces. I could have used a white. My autofocus is not working either. Could have used a white die, but I chose to go with a blue one. Anyway, they rolled a 5. Their forces are right here. You choose them out randomly. See, it says right here at the setup chart at the top, I wish this autofocus worked better. I don't know what's going on with that. Units are chosen randomly from those available. White player sets up first. Opening morale is 6 plus 2d6. Red player gets lower score. So you roll twice and you set it up that way. Let's see. So you can see you've got the Entente, which I am not going to use. Then you have the Polish National Army, and they get 2 plus 1d6 brigades to set up, and they would set up anywhere in Poland, west or south of the Vistula, at least 2 hexes from Warsaw. And the optional unit of Pilsudski's HQ, I probably won't use that. I only really wanted to try and use probably the Reichswehr rather setup, and I probably won't use any of the other optional stuff, at least for this playthrough. Then we've got the Volunteer Legion, which I'm not using. You've got the Soviet Red Army, which I already talked about. Then you've got the Konomia, which gets 1 brigade, 4 divisions, 2 of them reduced. They also get a headquarter. And the AP that you see there, 2 AP, those are asset points, and they represent things like artillery. So you have an artillery here. There's also aircraft and armor. There is a mention, if you wanted to be semi-historical, to limit how much armor and air the Red Army has, so I will probably use that. And then you can see they get to be in or adjacent to Warsaw, and then you have the Spartacists with none, and there's a 1 brigade of the Polish Red Army, which will start in Warsaw. So that is the setup. I'm actually going to go through and do this setup right now. So we're going to pause the video, and then I'll come back and we will start gameplay. Okay, so the first thing you do after the reinforcement and replacement phase, which we don't have, is, and after we've determined morale, which we did, the white has 19 thanks to the +1 from the event, and the red has 8. So the next step is to determine, you have chits. Each side has 3 chits, 3 ops chits. They go in this cup, and you draw them out one at a time. For the first turn, the reds automatically get the first move. So you pull one of their ops chits out deliberately, and you take it, and that's the first operation of the game. And then following that, you can do 3 different objects, or 3 different things during your, I wanted to say operations. So you can do overland movement, railroad movement, or combat. Okay, so looking at our situation on the board here, we don't really have we don't really have anywhere that we can actually attack. So we can elect to move, and that's what we're going to do. So basically, you can move units that are stacked together, which it says here, units must be stacked with or be adjacent to HQ units to perform multi-hex attacks or to draw supply. Out of supply units attack at half their attack factor, rounded up. So we do have units that are not adjacent to headquarters. We have a headquarters here. I believe there is one here. There is one here as well. Whoops. So they can some of these units are not going to be in supply, right? But like this one is, and this one, this stack and this stack are, because this stack, the northwest front, maybe, I guess, this being the Red Army, is right here. So they can move. Now their movement factor is a 1 for that stack, and they are stacked with a 2 and another 2. These are infantry units, of course. So if we look at our terrain effects chart, clear, they can do 1. To move to forest would cost 2, and the stacking limit in clear is 4. Okay, so we will move this stack 1, move them here, and then this stack, all 3 units, well, one of them has a 3 actually because it's a cavalry unit, but the other 2 both have a 2, so they will move here. And then these guys down here can go 1, they're both 2s, yeah. Whoops. They will go 1, 2. Now they're not going to be able to attack, but we can only do one thing this turn anyway, so we can only move. So what we can do though is we can go move these two, 1, 2. Now they will not be able to join in a multi-hex attack because they're not adjacent to the headquarters. Now these guys I think we're going to send this way towards Germany. So we do have rivers here. Now we also have some of the Polish National Army down here, and we'll probably want to attack them as well. So if we look again at our terrain effects chart, we do have a river, right? So it's +1 to cross, +0 if crossing hex side with a railroad. There is no stacking limit because it's a hex side. And then any attacks would get a 2-column shift to the left, which of course favors the defender. We don't have to worry about that right now. But you can see they could jump the river, and that would cost both of their points. Same for these guys. And then same for these guys as well. And they don't have an HQ with them, so they can attack this guy. His defense factor is only a 1, so he's not particularly stout. But we also have the attack factors will be halved. And again, they cannot attack. They cannot attack at full strength because they're not adjacent to a headquarters. Okay, so we've moved these 3. Now we got a monster stack here. Warsaw is right here. It's these 2 hexes with the Vistula running through the middle. And they would probably want to come down here and attack here. Now, in this case, we have 2 headquarters here. So we can move all of these units together because they all have at least 2 movement points, even the headquarters. So they're just going to move right here because, well, you know, maybe let's move them here. So they're going to be right here. So they have their HQ, and then they have 3 other units, including one really strong Red Army unit. So they're going to jump the river, which would cost them 2, and now they are adjacent to this Polish stack here in Radom. And then these guys would simply move up into this spot, so they could join the attack across the river. They'd get a 2-column shift, or I can elect to just let this stack attack them by itself, which you know, kind of negates the use of the HQ, but it does allow them to not have to take that 2-column shift. And now on this stack, this is a big one as well. This one's got 1 PRA unit, but it's also got a Russian Red Army, Soviet Red Army headquarters, and then a reduced unit and a couple more, another reduced unit. Some of the Russian units start reduced, or some of the red units, I should say, because they're not all Russians, I guess. The PRA is the Polish Army, the Polish Red Army. So they were here in Warsaw, and they're going to actually go 1, 2 here, which now puts these guys in supply as well. Now, what the Polish do here, we'll find that out when we go to their turn. Now we also have these guys up here, and they can go. Actually, let me refresh here, because we do have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have too many units here, so we're going to have to leave somebody behind. So let's leave the Polish Red Army unit here, along with the other Polish Red Army unit. And we'll take our Red Army units here, and we'll move them here, because now this puts these guys in supply as well as keeping the Polish Red Army in supply. Their HQs can work together with the other forces because it's one big happy red communist family here, I guess. So now these guys, we're going to take this guy. Now for him to cross the, I guess he could actually do railroad movement, which would get him here. So we'll stack him with his buddies here. And then this guy will jump the river and join this stack, which is only 3 units. So they're still good there. Stacking limit is 4 in a clear hex. Then we have another unit up here. And again, this one will go 1, 2. Actually, they'll all go here because they can stack 4. And I'll keep my Soviet units and my Polish Red Army units together. So we got a little, we've kind of kept the PRA mainly together. There are some Soviet Red Army in there as well. And we've got some Red Army here and all around this area here is all Red Army. So the only units we have not moved now, if I'm remembering correctly, are these guys. So they'll jump the river. That costs them 2. So they'll stop here. And these guys will go 1, 2. So they take control of Thorn there. And I think that completes all the movement. So that would end their turn, and we would pull another chit. I'm not going to look. We're just going to pull one out. And it's white. So the white will get an ops turn now. So now we've got, and we're here on August 3, third week of August. These units, these out of the way here. These, I think, are the Spartacists or something, I think. Maybe. I don't remember right now what the yellow is. But we're going to move them out of the way regardless. And we're going to, let's see, we should try and bolster some of these guys. So we have a German cavalry unit here. This is Reichswehr. We have a railroad that we can move them on. So if they move up here, they can move all the way out here. And they cannot actually join with the Polish army. They're separate, but they can still be here even though they're out of supply as well, because there's no HQ anywhere around them, let alone adjacent. Then we'll move, we'll do rail movement. Actually, maybe it's not. I'm trying to remember here if I have to, because they could go 1, 2, 3 and stop right there. And they'll be more in line with where they should be in terms of their own units. And we're doing overland movement and not rail movement. Although it is tempting to use rail movement because everybody's on a rail line. Yeah, I'm going to do rail movement. We'll put him right here on the other side of the Vata River. Then we'll take these Freikorps, sorry, and we'll move them to Breslau. We'll move this guy here, the 4th. We're going to move him up and send him up to Posen. We'll leave them there. These guys are in Stargard. They'll join these guys here and make a bigger stack. And we've got these guys. Going to send them up and around, and we're going to go to Danzig here. We'll leave them in Königsberg. These guys here in Stettin, we'll put them here. Just kind of trying to make a little bit of a firewall, so to speak. So we got a couple of headquarters here in Berlin. And we have a unit here. So we're going to move him to Posen as well. And we're going to take our 3rd. We'll take the HQ for the 3rd and put them there. Then we're going to move this guy here. So they're adjacent to each other. And then we've got the 4th down here. And there's a 2nd headquarters right there as well. Let's move this HQ here. And we'll move these reinforcements. Well, they can do this too. So they'll go there. They're also going to go there. Maybe I'll put one here. One with the HQ in the middle. Well, that's wrong. 1, 1, and 1. Got cavalry. They're in forest. We'll put this guy here. So now he's keeping these guys in supply. Now we have this one here, and we have another HQ down. We have 2 HQs actually down here. He was on this rail line. It's going to come in, and let's put him in. Let's put him here. It's kind of central. And we're going to move one of these HQs up there, and then these guys here are going to be our southern force. And we'll put them right here behind Breslau. And then these guys can move up and join their buddies here in Breslau. And I think that completes what the white forces will do. We'll draw another chit, see who gets to move again. Again, it's red. So we get our second red army. Now we can do some attacking, which is what I was hoping to be able to do soon. This is going to be like a play example. I'm not going to play the whole game out. It would take way too long. But I'm going to try to get through one turn, which would be at least one turn. We'll see. I'm a little short on time is the reason why, or I would really want to dig in a little bit more here. So we have a unit here that I did not move, and I could have, but I chose not to. So mainly because I do want to show how combat works. So I probably almost definitely went over here. You're only allowed to do half of your morale, which I think it's rounded up, isn't it? Yeah, round up. So I'd have 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I definitely went over. You're only supposed to move half. I'm not going to undo everything, but I did screw that up, and I did want to point that out. You're only allowed to move half of your morale points rounded up at the beginning of the operations phase using railroad movement. Units in excess of this number may not move at all in this phase. So now I feel bad. Let's move these guys back. I don't even remember where they all were. But I think one was here. And I don't remember where the other ones were. One of them might have been in Breslau. And let's put one in Cottbus. They're back off the line. Maybe I'll put them in Dresden. I'm just kind of weakening things a little bit because I wasn't supposed to be able to do what I did. So we're also going to move these guys out, and we'll just have them kind of spread around behind the line, I guess. I'll leave him up there because I don't remember where he came from. They all started on towns. Maybe I'll put them there. And I'll just leave the rest of them where they were. And that's my decision on fixing my screw up there. Okay, so now back to attacking. So combat, when player elects to conduct a combat operation segment, his units may attack the enemy units in an adjacent hex. Only one attack may be made by a given unit in a segment, but the units in a hex may be attacked any number of times by different adjacent enemy units. That's kind of standard, right? Attacking is voluntary, but all units attacked in a hex must defend as one total. So our procedure is the attacking player declares an attack and determines which CRT, standard or shock. So as far as shock goes, there's a shock symbol on this tank, this AP here. So you see that lightning bolt in between the +1 and the 2? That indicates he's shock capable. And you'll see that on some units. So what that means is if you use shock, so just because the unit itself is shock capable does not mean the whole attack can be, because you have to have half of your attacking strength be shock capable, and we do not. We have this one, which is 2 steps, and this one, which is 1 step. So that's 3 steps out of, and this is a 1-step unit. So that's 3 out of 4 from this stack. Now, if we were to try and use this adjacent stack, we would have 2, 4, we'd have 4 more that would not be shock. So just to show you the difference between the shock and the CRT, I'm going to attack them separately. So this guy is going to attack with shock. We're going to roll on the shock combat table. The attack is a 7. So you add it up. You add up your total attack factor, which is 7, to the defender's defense factor, which is 1. So that's a 7-to-1. So now if we go to our shock CRT, which is in the back, if I remember correctly. Yes, it's on the back, actually. So here are the 2 CRT tables, right? You have standard and shock. Use if 50% of attacking steps are shock capable. So we do have that. So it's greater than 5-to-1, so we're going to be in this column. Okay, now you have some BBX in here, which is escalating bloodbath, which is interesting. But anyway, we're going to roll on the 5-to-1 column. Okay, so we do have some die roll modifiers. Now the attacking strength is actually 4 + 2, which is 6. because this is a die roll modifier, the AP. You can see here on the counter, it has a +1, and that indicates that it is a +1 DRM. So it's going to we're still going to be in the 5-1 to start with, but our Freikorps unit here is in the town of Allenstein, and that gives them a 1-column shift to the left. So we'll be in and the cadre levels as well. So you gain a little bit of a bonus, but in this case, both the Soviet Red Army, which is the attacker, and the Freikorps, which is the defender, are cadre level 1. So there's no difference there. So we'll be in the 4-1 column, and we're going to roll 1d6, and I'll roll red because it's the Red Army, and they got a 6, which is a good result. So that becomes a 7, and you can see you've got DP there, which is Defender Panics. So all defending units desert. All units belonging to the defending player that were adjacent to the removed units must immediately retreat 2 hexes and are disrupted if the defending player takes them out of contact with attacking units that have not yet resolved their attacks. Tough luck. If the defending player removed units, not AP, consisting of 3 or more steps in this battle, then he also loses a morale point. So if they desert, so in this case, rather than be eliminated or retreat or lose a step, they're just eliminated, and they were a single step unit anyway. Now, when you lose a unit in combat, you usually get replacement points based on that, and I am just big-time Butterfingers here, because as usual, I am not using tweezers, because my tweezer skills are pretty bad as well. So these guys were all lined up together. Now, because they were eliminated, these guys can advance into there, and we don't have to show what regular combat would be. Regular combat pretty much works the same way. So we would have been in the same column, and our die roll of a 6, which becomes a 7, would have been a single step loss for the attacker and an elimination on the defender. So you can see that the shock is better because we didn't lose anything. No losses for the attacker, and the defender is deserts, which is worse than being eliminated, because if you're eliminated, you get attack factor points that you can then use to build replacements with. In this case, we can't. That unit is just removed from the game and done. Now, we do have some regular attack that we can do down here. Now, these guys are not adjacent to an HQ. So the attack factor here is a 9, and the defender's a 1. So if we have it, and I think when you have it in this case, it's not a round up. I think. Okay, so it is rounded up. So it's 5-1. We're not in a town or any kind of bonus terrain. So it's basically a 5-1 attack. On the standard chart, we roll, and it's a 2. I don't think either one of these had. No, neither one of those are shock capable. So here, we rolled a 2 on the 5-1 column. That's a 2-4. So this is a one-step unit. So it's going to be eliminated, but in this case, it can be used for rebuilding points as replacements. They lose 2, so we'll take 1 from each, and we'll flip them both over, like so. And then they would be able to move up. Now, with that done, that is the last. Oh, no, they can attack here as well. So again, we've got a big stack here with 3, 7, and 6 is 13. The defenders have 2. So that's going to be like 7-1, which of course gets adjusted down. They do get a column shift to make it a 4-1 by being in a town. So we'll roll. And again, it's in the standard here. So it's 6 on the 4-1 is 1-4. So they're going to lose 1 step. They're going to lose 4, which is going to eliminate both of them. They'll get to move up, and they lose 1 step themselves. And we're going to remove this one. Again, they'll be able to rebuild it later on. They've taken Radom. And that being the last place we can do an attack, that would end that operations, and we will pull a next chit out, and we get another white. So we would now have the white be able to do something. And this time we're just going to do, I think, regular movement. And let's see if we can do something somewhat aggressive, I guess. Perhaps. The Germans are better on the defense. Like this guy's got a 7 and he's shock capable. So this would be an instance where you might want to move these guys up to do something like that. But they can only really move 1. But still, we're going to move him 1, and this has a 2, so he could go 1, 2. And then over here, they're a 1, so they'll just move up 1. They can move 3. I don't, 1, 2, 3. But they can only move 1. So if he moved 1, 2, and then we move this guy here, and this guy could go 1, 2. Now they're both adjacent to that one, and yeah, we'll leave that together. Okay, because these guys have good defense ratings. So when the Russians roll into there, they're going to have a fight on their hands a little bit. We'll move this guy up. Leave them there. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. Because I think on there, well, actually, that's going to be the bridge is good, but that's a cost of 2 to move there, and then 1 more. So he'll be here. He'll go 1, 2 because he can cross the river on the bridge. 1, 2, 1, 2, and I think that's it. Unless I wanted to move these guys, but I kind of don't. I kind of want from the white side. I kind of want to let the reds come to us and maybe set up in some good defensive terrain. I do want to take these guys out. That's what this is for. If we can nail these guys, because some of these guys are going to have to turn west, and some of them, I'm assuming, because I'm going to be doing it, would go north towards Königsberg. But that's going to be the end of the white side. Now we'll draw again. Get another white. So the whites will have a back-to-back, but that's not going to do them much good in this case. So we'll put him in there. We'll move him here. And this guy will go 1, 2 to avoid the enemy zone of control. So he's now got a defense of 10 in this town. So it's unlikely, because they'll have to go across the river as well, although they could attack here, but you're still attacking across the river. We'll go 1, 2. We'll move this to there, and we're going to move this guy 1, 2 there. Now they're kind of in a situation where they're in a little bit of a trap, right? Let's move him here to the woods, and we'll move this guy to Schneidermuhl, and we'll move him here, and I'll have this guy join him, and this guy join him. 1, 2, 3. This guy I'm going to try to get to Posen. 1, 2, 3. And then we can move him there. 1, 2. 1, 2. And I think I'm good. All right, so we know the last chit is the reds. Now, looking here, right, so they've got a 10 and a column shift for being in the town, and 2 more column shifts for being across the river. So it makes no sense for this guy with his 6 attack factor to attack that. That's suicidal. This one is a little bit better punch, 9. And he could take this guy on, although the defense there is an 11. So you're looking at kind of a bad odds there. So what I think they'll do is elect to do a movement. And what we will do here is, because they're not in an Ezok, so they don't have to worry about that, but they can move here and stop. And then these guys will move 1, 2. Now, out of supply does not affect movement, only combat. So we're going to take these guys and move them up as well. Then these guys will move 1, 2. And these guys will move here. And these, they could go 1, 2 as well. They'll do that to get around loads. Now these here, they all have a 2. They can go 1, 2, stay on this side of the Vistula. And these guys, these are 2s. They can go 2. And these guys can go 3, 3, 2, 2. So they have to cross the river, which costs 2. So they'll have to stop there. Now up here, let's start to head this way. So we're going to go 1, 2 towards Danzig. Them towards Danzig. We'll move this one the same way, 1, 2. This one is going to move up to 1, 2. They'll move up to 1, 2, and they will move 1, 2. We're coming up here. Now, Königsberg's a city, and you're going to get a 2-column shift for that. Plus, their defense is a 6, so they're in a pretty good spot there. So that is actually the end of turn 1. We would go to the next turn, but at the end of the turn, you've got your recovery phase. So you roll a die for each friendly disrupted unit. We don't have any. Return all air AP. We didn't use our air AP. We do have one, but we didn't use it for the Russians. The white air forces would be here. They don't have any APs yet. And loop back to random events phase until a sudden death victory or the end of the last turn. So I'm going to wrap this up here. I don't like to go really long. This is a very cool system, and what I'd like to do is get Red Horde and play them together, and maybe do that as kind of a long play thing down the road. So I will look into picking up Red Horde from Tiny Battle. The maps link together and the games link together, and I think that sounds like a really cool thing. You can play the Russo-Polish War, and that would lead into this alternate history where, assuming that this would lead into this, assuming that the Russians actually take Warsaw and win the Russo-Polish War. Now, in reality, of course, they did not do that. And then we'd also be able to, well, I could have used them in this one, but you have Pilsudski as well, and all kinds of interesting things. Very, I guess for the West, that war isn't really all that well known, maybe, or not well. It's overshadowed because it happened right after the Russian Civil War and right after the First World War, and was 20 years almost before the Second World War. Germany was still in chaos. Poland was a brand new reborn country, and the Soviet Red Army was feeling its oats and trying to bring the revolution to Poland, bring Poland back into the fold, so to speak. After all, Russia and Germany had been controlling Poland for a couple hundred years by that point. Anyway, enough digression. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please consider liking, sharing, and/or subscribing. If you have any comments, questions, etc., feel free to post them, and I will do my best to answer in an expeditious manner. But yeah, that's going to do it. So thanks again for watching. I'm Joe. This is the Hexed Encounter channel, and until next time, as always, happy gaming.